Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Robyn Dobbins is a new but very dear friend of mine, whom I was lucky enough to meet at Low Carb Denver 2023. Robyn has suffered from many serious health conditions, including postpartum depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, obesity, depression, Hashimoto's disease, and bipolar disorder. After years of medications and treatments that had limited success, Robyn discovered a low carbohydrate diet through the amazing work of Vinnie Tortorich, who we hosted on Boundless Body Radio on episodes 55 and 243 of our show. Her symptoms of bipolar disorder went into remission on a no sugars, no grain diet, which eventually evolved into a strict carnivorous diet. On the carnivore diet, Robyn has lost 50 pounds and for 4 years has been healthy and medication free. Robyn is one of the admins on Vinnie Tortorich's No Sugars, No Grains Facebook group. She has also been the co-host of the Lunch and Learn on the No Sugars, No Grains Eat Happy Kitchen Clubhouse. Robyn was also briefly featured on episode 424 of Boundless Body Radio, featuring some of the amazing stories from the attendees of Low Carb Denver 2023. You can follow Robyn on Twitter at RMMLD03. Robyn, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
It was so fun to go to Low Carb Denver, and I'm outside eating my lunch, and I see 3 women come out and start eating their lunch. We talked about this in episode 424. You guys are like passing around guacamole and steak and bacon, and somebody was sharing their bacon, which I think is maybe illegal. I'm not sure. It was so fun to sit down and chat with you guys. And within a few minutes, I realized each and every one of you had your own unique and special story. And we were able to capture it and publish it. And I still get feedback from that episode. Even yesterday, somebody randomly reached out and said how impactful that was to them. So it's such a wonderful community, isn't it?
It sure is. So they're sharing their baking because Jill and Terry are both from that area. So they made bacon and shared it with me. So it was very nice because I was baconless and they gave me bacon. But you're absolutely right. The community is just amazing. And that podcast that we just accidentally got to go on, it's a very powerful podcast. All of these different stories, and every single one of them is because someone took the time to say, let me change my diet. And it worked, and they stuck with it and had all of these amazing, everyone has a different story, but it's all an amazing connection that we all help each other out. It's wonderful.
It really is. We were just hanging out also in Austin, really a lot closer to you. And you had invited me out to dinner, and I wasn't there with anybody. I didn't have any plans. So I'm like, sure, I'll go out to dinner with you guys. And, I'd meet you in front of the hotel and jump into a car with a bunch of strangers and your husband. And we went to this barbecue that was fantastic. And all of a sudden, all these other people keep showing up. And like the group is getting bigger and bigger. And they're all part of this no sugar, no grain group. And again, same thing, to sit there with all of these people eating tons of meat and very few vegetables, if any. Everybody has this amazing story. And we took a group picture afterwards with everybody who was at the dinner. And I have to say, I can't remember her name, but every group picture needs the person to organize.
Jackie.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jackie. She put everybody in exactly the right place, which was amazing. Picture turned out really good. And you could look at all those people and think okay, there's some people that aren't super metabolically healthy, but they're on a journey. They've come so far, and maybe somebody has, 20 pounds to lose or something, but they've been suicidal in the past. They've been obese in the past. They've had heart disease in the past, and everybody is progressing and learning. And to just sit in that beautiful environment and to talk to people and hear their stories is so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't use your eyes to judge people. You just can't. You have to hear what they've gone through and where they've been and where they're going. So yeah, you can look at people and say, oh yeah, they're not there yet. And that's what you got to say. They're not there yet, but they're working on it. They're doing their thing, working on it. And our group is big. Last year it was even bigger, the group that came out. So, but it's always fun to just meet these people that you talk to online, and as soon as you see them, you feel like you've known them. It's a hug. It's it's just an embrace. You know each other's story, you know each other's history, but you haven't ever met physically before, but you feel like you have, and it's like meeting brothers and sisters, and it's fun. And I'm so glad that you came, because it is. I was like, hey, you want to go out to dinner with a bunch of random strangers? We're cool, I promise. and you did your thing. You do what you do. It was listening to everybody's story, and it was cool because you did that. I got to hear everybody's stories again, so that was really awesome.
Very cool. It was perfectly described when you say like brothers and sisters. You feel like you've known these people a long time. We're all trying to do the best for our health. We've at some level all been misled severely in how much diet can impact our health and what we need to be doing for diet. And so yeah, we do have a lot in common, and you feel that bond almost instantly. It's really amazing. And that was a really special evening, and something that I will remember for a long time. So thank you so
Good,
much for
I'm
the
glad.
invite. I loved it.
I'm glad. Plus, it was good barbecue. You can't go wrong there.
I was
We all
just going
had
to say.
eyes bigger than our stomach, but then we all had pocket meat for the next day, so it's good.
I was just gonna say, and for nothing else, that barbecue was amazing. Oakwood was the name of the place, I think.
Oakwood barbecue. Yep.
Yeah, I left them a very generous review. Their brisket was amazing. Their pulled pork was amazing. Yeah, if nothing else, pocket meat the next day might sound a little weird, but that's exactly what it was, and it was delicious.
Yep.
Robyn,
Everybody needs it.
everybody needs some pocket meat.
Yeah.
And if you're living in your hometown and somebody's visiting, make extra bacon for them so you can share your bacon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Standard stuff.
It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. I love it. You, my friend, have been through the ringer. You've gone through a ton. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into, poor health, metabolic health issues? When did that start for you? When did you start to experience some of the things that you've been through?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I never looked at myself as being unhealthy. Physically, I guess, I say that I was blissfully unaware of how I looked. I just didn't pay attention to it. I knew that I was unhappy. I knew that life was awful for me, even though it seemed like on the outside everything should have been grand. But I was really just blissfully unaware. So in my, I guess really I can go back to being in high school. In high school, I wasn't happy. Couldn't tell. In fact, the other interviews I've been on that my mom has heard, she's like, "You were happy in high school." I was like, "No, I was miserable in high school." But I was active. I was in all of the clubs. I lettered in football. So I was the manager of the football team, and I was always out and about and doing stuff, but I always felt like the outcast. I always felt like I was working really hard to try to fit in, and I just never felt like I did fit in. And I was miserable. All of my friends just kind of dropped me one day, and I was alone. And then that's when I first started thinking, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And I was really, I'm just very, very negative towards myself. That never really went away. But I was very quiet about it. I'm in high school. I'm trying to live my high school life, and I was very quiet about it. I go off to college. Those feelings never really went away, but I still, I guess I had the energy. I was young. I had the energy to kind of hide that misery that I was feeling inside. So I'm going chronologically, which is unusual. I don't usually go chronologically, but I tell my
This is
story.
great.
But then after there was like little things that would happen. Like I would get into arguments with people, and I couldn't speak, so I would have to write things down. And so that person would be talking to me, and I would be writing. And I realized that that's kind of odd, but I never really thought about it too hard. It's just I couldn't form words out of my mouth, so I could think and I could write. So I would do that. When Matt and I first met and we had an apartment, I told him, and so we were looking for apartments. So you have to understand, when things get overwhelming, I just shut down. So if I just shut down, you just make all the decisions. I'll be okay. We'll get over it. So just these little things that would happen that I knew that I did them and they were my normal, but I didn't realize it was kind of off. And until I had my son. So he's 18. So when I had my son, things were really, we decided that I should leave my job. And it was a mutual decision. We decided I should leave my job. And so then I was home in the house with a baby by myself. And that's when, you're like alone with your thoughts all the time. And these things just kept happening where like I couldn't speak, or I'd get really frustrated and angry. And I was writing all over. If I could find something to write on, I was writing, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this anymore. And I was writing it. So I guess he found it one day. I don't know. We ended up getting in an argument, one where I'm writing and he's talking, and he realizes that something is wrong. So he takes me to the hospital, which is where I get diagnosed with postpartum depression. And that's just, you have postpartum depression. Here's some pills. So that's how that was treated. And I remained on those pills because I realized, okay, well, all of the stuff that was going on, I was probably depressed the whole time. So even after a few years, I remained on those pills. We moved at the time, we lived in Maryland, we moved to Pennsylvania. I find out I'm pregnant again. So I'm like, I better take myself off these pills. I'm just dating a baby. So we get off the pills, and eventually I just go back to the doctor and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So Matt travels for work. He would leave on a Sunday night. He would return home on Saturday morning. I've got a toddler and I'm in an unfamiliar place because we've moved to Pennsylvania now. I don't know where anything is, and I'm pregnant. And I just couldn't do it anymore. So I went back on medication because that's all I knew. That's all I knew how to do. It's like the way we treat depression is we take pills. Yeah. So I remained on those. We didn't stay in Pennsylvania long. We ended up moving to South Carolina. When we did that, the pills just got phased out. I didn't have a doctor. I didn't have anything. So that just got phased out. That's when I started trying to just power through again. I wasn't really trying to let on that I was struggling. So I probably went another 5-6 years before I started paying attention to myself. And I'm an avid reader. So I would go to the libraries and I was getting books about depression. And then I was getting books about bipolar disorder. And I was just reading, I was just taking in all this information. And I was like, all of this sounds like me. So I told my husband, I was like, we need to go to the doctor. I need to do something about this. Cause I just didn't want to be alive. I didn't care about anything. I didn't want, and weird stuff. Like I would have these episodes where, well, we had financial problems. So, they talk about you want to go off and like just go shopping or go gambling or something like that. I had the self-restraint to know that if I went off on some sort of major shopping spree or whatever to try to make myself feel better, I would end up still feeling bad because it would hurt the family financially. So I had all of this restraint and all of this battle going on. And it would come out in weird ways. Like I would be shooting off emails to people that were like 3 pages long that were, this is this scenario and we could handle it this way. This is this scenario, we can handle it this way, this one, and just over and over and over, just all these things. And it was obviously overwhelming to the other person, but I couldn't do another thing until I got it all out and I had to tell somebody. So it was these long emails, and people don't want emails. Nobody wants an email from me anymore. So I started to recognize that this is probably not right, not normal. So I go to see my doctor. He immediately puts me on medication. So I'm taking meds. It takes months where we were in South Carolina to see a psychiatrist because there's just not very many of them. So it took months. I finally see them. She keeps me on the medicine. She adds another medicine. And this is how it was for several years. It was just medication. And the psychiatrists, they didn't stay in the area. So I would have to go see a new one. And every time I'd go in, they changed what I was taking and it was just never consistent. And I still never felt right. I felt like I was drugged. I spent my children's formative years basically just like propped up in a corner and just kind of watching everything go by. I would be asleep. I'd have to set alarms in the morning to wake up to get the kids ready for school. And I would go home. My first thought when I wake up is I need to go back to sleep. So I would go home and set an alarm so that I could wake up, so that I could get them out of bed. I mean, so that I could get them from the school bus. And then we would blow through getting work done, which was never easy. Like homework and stuff was always screaming. In fact, it was so bad that we'd wake up in the morning and I'd get the kids in the car. I would literally just yell at them and just scream at them from the moment we left the house till they walked out. And then, of course, I felt horrible because how do you set up your kid for the day when you're screaming at them on the way to school, and then they get to come home and have that again until they go to bed, and then I went to bed. So I mean, that was life, and that was how it was. Even when I was medicated, the anger part it's not subdued. The anger part was still there. I slept all day. That's the only way I could control it, if I was asleep. So I mean, that's basically all of that. All of what I was going through was very much mental stuff, and I thought for the entirety of my life I would have to be medicated. That's when I turned 40. When I turned 40, I went to the doctor. Yeah, sorry, I cry. So when I go to the doctor when I turned 40, and they do all the normal 40-year-old blood work, and he's like, I'm a little concerned about your cholesterol levels, and I want to put you on a statin. And I knew, because Matt had listened to Vinny on his podcast, that statins might not be the right choice, but I didn't know enough about it. But I did know that a lot of people who had followed him didn't have to be on statins because they changed and ate the way he was telling people to eat. So I asked my doctor if I could have 6 months to change my diet, and he said yes. And so that's what I did. So the only reason why I changed my diet was to try to not get put on a statin. And that led me down this whole other road that I've ended up going down the past almost six years now. And that was after that 6 month appointment. The doctor said, hey, your blood work's looking great. Keep doing what you're doing. So I did. In that first year, this was 2017, in that first year, my husband got laid off from his job. He looked and looked and looked and couldn't find anything in South Carolina. He's originally from Texas. I said, let's go to Texas. I'm sure you find work there. So he did. And this was quite a process. He moved away 3 months before we moved away. School was still going on. The kids were finishing school. I was in charge of getting them to all of their events and doing all the things, plus the emotions of this. They know they're moving. They know this is their goodbye. Packing up a house, cleaning a house, having a house ready to show, all of this stuff. Moving is stressful, and it's me and the children, and he's gone. In July, we ended up moving to Texas. So all of us were back together again. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment for a year, where it's 4 adults and a dog in this 2-bedroom apartment. The 2 kids were forced to share a room. They had no choice. They knew it was just part of this transition process. They were big major troopers. But the thing is, I realized I did it. Like, I did all those things. Like, my natural tendency would just be to curl up in a ball and ignore all of it and just pretend it wasn't happening, or then just be angry about the whole situation. But I didn't. I found joy in knowing that we were going on an adventure, like this great new adventure. I could see this future for the kids where we had a lot more opportunity being where we are in Texas. And I'm really sorry. This is emotions and my cold coming out all at once. I just realized this difference. So that's when I've said, you know what? I think I'm feeling better. I don't need to be on this medication anymore, or I want to try to not be on this medication anymore. I want to see if I can challenge myself to be well enough without medication, because I feel like I can. I finally have this desire and feel like I can do it. And that's where I ended up. I ended up going to talking to my husband, letting him know what I wanted to do, talking to my children, letting them know what I wanted to do, going to a doctor, and she agreed to wean me off the medications. So I was on an antipsychotic and an antidepressant at the time, and we weaned off of both of them, and I've never gone back on. It's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's so amazing. I don't know if you heard my voice break a few times, even in the introduction. Like, I've been on the edge of tears this whole time too. I'm keeping it together for now. It's really, it's a lot. I only know this iteration of Robyn, the bubbly, sweet, kind, amazing Robyn. And so to even try to imagine you in a different iteration, it's kind of hard to hear. It's frankly kind of heartbreaking. Your husband, I met your husband, Matt. He is a sweetheart. How was he able to hold it together through all of this?
I honestly, we definitely had our ups and downs while I was at my most severely ill. There was definitely a time where we thought we were going to separate. There was definitely a time where we were in separate rooms. It was not easy, but I guess somehow he just held hope, and I held hope. I know that one of my biggest things that I'm still working on is using the phone. I don't use the phone. So even if I wanted to try to get out, I had tried to like call a lawyer one time. Was like, I don't have any money and I want to get out of this marriage, and then they're like, we can't help you, and just like collapsing on the floor. Just that was it. Like that was, I had nothing left. I was at my bottom. So it was like, we need to work on this. That was really the only way out, was to continue to work on it, and we did. And he's an amazing. I call him he's my rock. He really is. He has always been honest as far as like if I was going through something, he could say like, look, it looks like something's off. Like that's why when I decided to get off the medicine, that he was so much part of that process. I needed him to honestly tell me that you're seeing symptomatic. We might need to go back on, or whatever. And he's never had to say that until I did the experiment, which I can talk about if you want to. But he's always just been willing to tell me these things, and that's really what's made this strong and made it possible, was to have support.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Hanging out with him in Austin, you could just tell everything you just said about him is true. He just seems so calm and steady. Besides the time we were driving and somebody cut us off, we almost got in an accident. You could see with his mom, especially with his mom in the front seat, he was ready to he was ready to go after somebody. But yeah, he's just so calm and steady, and I'm sure that presence was so healing for you. I do want to talk about the experiment, because this is a really, really important part of this conversation. Before we do, tell us what is bipolar like for somebody that's suffering from it. Like, I understand that your emotions are changing. My thought with bipolar is it was always like this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of a situation where you'd either be sweet and bubbly or you'd be terrible. I don't know that that's actually what it's like. And to have some of these anger moments, yelling at your kids, like, are you aware of these things as they're happening, or do they just kind of come out, you can't control it, and like later on is when, like you said, you're feeling like really terrible about things? Like, what is it actually like?
Yes, all of that.
Good answer.
It is. It's well, in fact, I was listening to some podcasts. I listened to some with Dr. Georgia E not that long ago, and she was talking about you have to try to listen to somebody's symptoms and then like fit them in a box, and not every and it's mental things. Nobody fits in the same box. So you have this box and this box, and you got to see which box is closest. So I don't know that there's a really good way to describe it that's all encompassing for everyone, but it is all of what you just said. It's like this, like a lot of times you do know it's happening, but you can't stop it, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. I can't make this stop. It's very uncontrollable. And then there's other times where you are so uncontrolled that you don't know what's happening, and then you do get those alert moments where you're like, oh my goodness, I just did this, and there's guilt and shame, and it's I always say it was like a constant battle, because you're trying to make it look like it's fine on the outside, because obviously people are scared. People are very scared of the word bipolar. They think that we're gonna just, I don't, I don't even want to go down that road, that they're scared of the word bipolar. But so you don't say anything to anybody. Although I was open about it. Once I got diagnosed, I felt like it was important to be open about it, because I don't like the thoughts that there's stigma on people who are like me, that aren't going to be maybe off this deep end that everyone assumes all people with a mental illness go to. There's more of us that are fairly able to be in society than there are the ones that are making the news. So I did want that to be an open thing, but that's what it is. It's a constant exhausting battle where you're just trying to figure out, just how to get through every day without, as even as possible. For me, that's how I was trying to do it. I was just trying to be as even as possible. But it was really like a game of averages. If we got a good moment, we capitalized on it. If we didn't, it was bad. It was, off the handle, and it was just anger. Just anger.
Wow. Now, you mentioned Dr. Georgia Ede and her amazing work. We're both huge fans of Dr. Chris Palmer and his amazing work.
Yes.
And his recent book, Brain Energy, is hopefully just going to be such a game changer for mental health, is my hope anyway. Hopefully it reaches the mainstream. But he really kind of convinced me what you just said, like putting people into boxes. We have names for all of these things, but they're all so vastly different, and they change all the time. And somebody might express schizophrenia for 3 years that might change into something different that we have to re-diagnose, and everyone has different protocols for different medications. When, boy, like, all of these things are so unique and different. Like, how can you, we need to name them, and they need to have a name attached to them, but they're so different. Like, how are we able to like classify different things for different people?
Yeah, and then, like, I honestly was excited at the time. Like, I have a name for this diagnosis. I have a name for what's going on, and we can do something about it. We'll throw medication at it, and I'm going to be well. I'm maybe not going to be better, but I'm going to be well. And I never got that well. I never felt that. I was either just this lump in the corner that was nothing, or asleep. That was really it. That's not better. Being asleep all day is not better. Not being able to accomplish tasks is not better. But that's how it's been handled, and I don't want that for people. Dr. Ian Campbell said it on a tweet not too long ago. He's like, why do we want, if once we've been through that hell and we've been pulled back out, why would we leave anybody behind? And that's where I am too. I'm like, I don't want to leave anybody back there. There is hope there. And that's what Dr. Palmer's talking about. There is hope. We just need to get this word out there. And that's why I've been telling my story, because I really feel like I really hope that it resonates with someone and they realize that they can take the steps as well, because it was just food. It was just changing how I ate. That's the only thing that is different about who I am. Is that I changed how I fuel my body, and I chose to eat a meat heavy, vegetable heavy, took out all the carbs, took out all the sugar, no grains, all of that. I took it out, and now this me, and I'm sure you can't even picture the 50-pound heavier lump that was angry. That person's gone. That's not there anymore.
Yeah, the picture you just posted, it has been 6 years, pretty much to the day, that you took that picture. The picture is amazingly different. The progress you've made is totally crazy. If I saw those two people together, like, you just know those are two completely separate people. So Matt introduced you to Vinnie Tortorich and his amazing work. He's been preaching no sugar, no grain for a long time, which is a very simple and approachable way that anybody could really do this diet. How did he find that work and decide that that was a good thing to do? And then again, for you, it was more about the cholesterol than anything, right? It was more for you changing your diet so you wouldn't go on a statin.
Yep, that's all it was. I didn't want to add. I knew that I was going to be on mental health medications for the rest of my life. I did not want to add another one, and that's just where I was. I'm not going to do this. So that's how it started. He found Vinny through Adam Carolla. So we call it the Carolla effect. So he was a Carolla listener, and Vinny has made a gazillion appearances on Carolla, and so it resonated with him. And my husband has always been overweight, and he has done all of the diets. If it's a diet, he's done it. And so he was really interested in trying this, and had actually tried it on his own probably 6 months before I did. But because I do all the cooking, and I was pretty much, no, I'm not giving up pasta, he ended up falling back into eating the way the rest of the family was eating. So once I got on board, he also got on board. So we both do it together, which I know so many people don't have the luxury of having someone else in their household doing it as well. And neither of our children are doing it, but the two of us have each other. And I think that's what's also helped us with our success. And I wish that everybody could have somebody else, but that's why I got so heavily involved with his Facebook group. And I do want to just point out that I'm going to do my due diligence, that this No Sugars, No Grains is Vinny's registered trademark. So they had asked me, and I am now currently an admin for his Facebook page. I became active there because I saw how it was helping. I saw how it was helping myself. I saw how it was helping him. I saw how it was helping other people in the group. So I just became an active voice there because, yes, not a lot of people have someone in their house that they can do these things with. So, if you have questions, I'm here. I want to help you. And that's just I just threw myself in like that because I have this strong desire to help people. And so that's how I ended up in that situation.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's one thing to use the information for yourself. It's another thing to want to share it. And why wouldn't you? It's such a marvelous, remarkable change. Of course, you'd want to share that. And you're right. Like, it is amazing if you have the support in your household. A lot of people don't, and it does make it a lot harder. It makes it harder in social situations and day-to-day meal prep. All that stuff can be very, very challenging. But when the stakes are so high, it's worth it to do what you know was going to work. Tell us a little bit about your progression through low carbohydrate. Was it difficult to remove the sugars and grains initially? And then over time, how did that continue to evolve to the current iteration of the diet you're at today?
Okay, yeah. So when I first started, it was no sugars, no grains. And what I love about no sugars, no grains is that's it. That's it. It's no sugars, no grains. We don't count. We don't look at net carbs. We don't have to test. We're not seeking a specific ketone level in no sugars, no grains. A lot of people live in dietary ketosis, but it's not a requirement. So if you do like to be veggie heavy, you're still going to find health as long as you're like cooking with great fats and stuff. So that's where I started. It was, if it's on my plate, if it's a sugar or a green, I'm not going to eat it. So when I first started out, it was meat and usually like Brussels sprouts or broccoli. We did a lot of cauliflower rice, all of that stuff, but it's all fresh foods. Thankfully, I do stay home. So I would cook these great meals, and we would just eat. My biggest vice has always been ice cream. I would have a huge bowl of ice cream every night. And so my transition food there was I had to learn how to eat yogurt because I didn't like yogurt. So I learned how to eat yogurt and berries. So that was my transition food. So even though I still had a snack at night, it was a change, and it was a high fat yogurt with berries change, not a sugar filled, chocolate smeared, whatever, cookie filled bowl of ice cream. So even with that, I ended up losing the 50 pounds. So the 50-pound weight loss is from simply NSNG. The change in my blood markers is from simply NSNG. And I say simply because it is that simple. You just cut out sugars and grains. But now everybody wants to overthink of it because we have this term keto, we have this term keto diet, and it's all marketed. And so is very confusing for a lot of people. So it's funny to tell somebody that's new who's seen all this keto stuff, well, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? And our answer is like, is it a sugar? Is it a grain? And if the answer is yes, don't get it, don't eat it, don't do it. So that has been refined several times because I wanted to experiment with going deeper. So I'm mostly carnivore. So right now, basically my diet is meat, and I might make a little what we call meat jewelry. So that would be like if I grill a steak, I might grill some onions with it. Yesterday I made a deep dish meat crust pizza. So it had tomato and onions and bacon and cheese. So every once in a while I'll eat tomato. And then sometimes if we do something that's just not a high fat meat, that's not very filling, I'll supplement with some avocado. So those are like the onion, tomato, and avocado is about the only thing that I'm eating that's not meat. So I'm pretty much all the way there. I'm not sure that I will cut those things out because I enjoy them, and they're I don't think anybody got fat eating tomato. So
yeah, I would still consider that to be a very strict carnivore diet. And I'm glad you clarified what I goofed up in the introduction, that it wasn't necessarily the carnivore diet that made you lose all the weight. It was actually before then, just simply cutting out the sugars and grains. I think that would be super important for people to know. So I'm really glad you clarified that. I think a lot of people think that to do carnivore, you can never have plants. You can never have any carbohydrate ever. And it's like some people, like Amber O'Hearn, also has suffered with a lot of bipolar. She eats meat and salt and water, and she doesn't have anything else because her case is so severe that any other little thing causes it to flare up. And so that's a different situation. But most people could have some small allowance of some plants and keep them in the diet, and they would be just fine. So I'm really glad you clarified that.
Yeah, and I do, and I feel like it is. And you have too. We've done the carnivore coaching classes, and even in those classes, Dr. Baker's like, yeah, some people are going to have to supplement with some things. So I mean, we look at him as this major guru, and he is a major guru, and he only eats meat, but he understands, and we understand that there is a range of what's going to be great for people. And for me, this is it, and this is where I want to be. And for somebody else, it might have some more vegetables, and that's okay. But I know what they are going to do to me because I've had that experience. I know what they're going to do to me, and I just don't want to have that happen again. So it's worth it to me. Some people think it feels strict or live a little or whatever, and I am living. I'm living. Why would I take that away from myself to have this taste of whatever? It's not important to me anymore.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. My favorite definition of carnivore is a hyper carnivore in nature is consuming at least 75% of their calories from animal products. That leaves an allowance, and you can decide which plant foods are good for you, which are not, which you want to include, and which are just simply, like you said, they're just not worth it. I can stay on the more abstinent side because when I have sugar and a lot of carbohydrates, I get anxiety, and it sucks. I hate it. I don't like to spin in anxiety about all the stuff that's never going to happen to me. Oh, I can be a little bit more strict, and that's okay. I eat delicious foods, and the brisket and the pulled pork that we had in Austin is just fine, and making boiled eggs is just fine. And it's, again, I love that you make that so approachable and point that out for people. Okay, so you mentioned a statin. You mentioned an experiment. We are we're starting to learn in the last few years about something that Dave Feldman is really bringing to light, and that is called a lean mass hyper responder. This is fascinating work that he is doing. He is working tirelessly and has for years, trying to raise money to do studies that are extremely well done to figure out what is going on. Can you tell us what a lean mass hyperresponder is?
Oh my goodness. The actual definition is very parameters. I don't know what the parameters are. So no, I can't tell you that. But basically, there are a group of people, and he has done the work to make it become an actual phenotype. So now they can do the studies to see how this works. And his news and all that he talked about in Denver was exciting. So I can't wait to hear what's coming out. But
so 1,000 people when he was doing his presentation, 1,000 people, low carb supporters who were expecting good results anyway. When he released his preliminary data, 1,000 people gasped in unison.
Yes,
it was
yes.
amazing.
It was absolutely. I was so glad to be in that room with him, and then to speak with him afterwards was amazing. So, but anyway, to try to define, there are people who are eating low carb whose cholesterol levels are going up. I guess it's their LDL levels are going up to like extremely high levels. Like mine was like, it went up crazy high. So at the time, I was a patient of Dr. Tro's. And the last time I told this story, he reached out to me and he was like, I'm really sorry. So no, this is an important part of my journey, and I would not have learned this about myself had I not done it. So there's no animosity there. I want to clarify that right off the bat. There's no animosity there whatsoever. Maybe at the time there was because it made me sick, but we'll get to that. But now there's not. I needed that piece of my journey. So what they were determining at the time was that people who had cut themselves so low carb and their levels were rising, perhaps let's theorize that if we give them a little bit of carbohydrate back, then those numbers will go down. And he has written studies about it. In fact, I think he's using my numbers in a study. He asked my permission, so he can. So what we had decided to do was to do an experiment. And the experiment was that I was to eat 1 sweet potato a day. It was my first food. So I would come off a fasted state with 1 sweet potato and no fat. So I couldn't even like douse it with butter. I was just eating a sweet potato. Some interesting things happen is, one, I absolutely love sweet potatoes, so I was totally on board with this. So I was like, yeah, I get to eat sweet potatoes. Because before that, I was full carnivore. I was just meat and water carnivore. So I was like, cool, I'll bring sweet potatoes back in. We'll try this experiment. Probably within 2-3 days, I was, by clockwork, my body's going, it's sweet potato time. So that craving started coming in, and I was starting to fight like evening sugar cravings too throughout this entire process. So I started bringing yogurt back in and that kind of stuff. But I was eating a sweet potato every day for 3 months. Got my blood work back, and we're getting results. The numbers that we're looking at, they're going down. That's exactly what they're supposed to be doing. We're fitting right into this theory. Everything's looking great. But Matt had mentioned that he noticed that, things weren't going well, that I was getting angry again, that I was just kind of distant and distracted. He was like, you need to definitely mention that to Dr. Tro. So I told Tro, and just like any other medication, he's like, well, we need to find the right dose for you. 1 sweet potato a day is too much. We're in no man's land here. We don't know what's going to happen. So let's just figure it out. So I opted for, because we were like, we could do 1 sweet potato every other day or every 2 days. And I was like, I like the consistency. So we opted for me doing a half a sweet potato every day. And the numbers were going down still. So we did that for 2 months. The blood work comes back. The numbers are going down. But I'm waking up in the morning, and my first thought of the day is, I can't wait to go back to bed. And that's a signal for me. That's when I start noticing that something's not right. But I am diehard to help Tro with this experiment. I'm in it. I really want to contribute and help. I mean, I really want to help. So we discuss and we take it down to a quarter of a sweet potato a day. And I did that for 2 months, and I still was just absolutely miserable. And I don't know if I was at the time like, I had never really cleared out what was going on with the 1 sweet potato a day or not. But I ended up getting COVID in October, and I didn't want to eat anything. And the only thing that I was being consistent with was the sweet potato. And I was like, this is dumb. I have to stop. I'm miserable. I have to stop. So that was the moment that I was like, I have to stop this. And I told him, I was like, I have to stop this. I'm not well. I'm not well, and I can feel it. I had stopped. I didn't talk about this, but I exercise. I row on my rower all the time. I had stopped rowing. I had stopped doing my weight training, and I have a notebook where I keep a log. So starting in 2019, I started keeping a log of all of my workouts, and they're consistent. And then I have this 2-month span of time where I didn't do a thing. Or I would have a note, I would do something and I would write, get back to this, and try to tell myself to get back into it. And it was just, the energy just wasn't there. And I was eating a sweet potato and I started eating yogurt again. And yogurt I can still eat now and it doesn't do anything. So I'm going to go with the sweet potatoes that I was eating every day. Of course, at that time, I also didn't know about oxalate, and I didn't know that sweet potatoes are very high in oxalate. So now that I have been following Sally Norton, perhaps that was part of the problem. But I certainly added carbs that I was way more carbs than I would normally eat, because I definitely keep it under 20 if I track, which I usually don't. But I told you what I eat. It's definitely under 20. It's not every day. And so doing that every single day, plus the fact that there may have been an oxalate issue as well. It took me from October to because I have this log. I called Vinny in October and had a consult with him, and we worked out a plan for what I would do. I did not even act on that until November, and that was pushing myself through. And during this process, I'm talking to people in the groups, and I'm like, all I can think about is the infiniteness of this, and I just can't get the infiniteness out of my head, and I'm gonna have to do this every day for the rest of my life. And I was like, oh, woe is me. I'm just like forcing myself through the motions. But by February, I finally was getting out of it and starting to set goals for myself again, and starting to push towards those goals again. And I rode a second 1,000,000 meters. I finished that a couple weeks ago. Before KetoCon, I finished that because it was like, I have the thing. It's right here. I could get it. Let's get it. So that's what I did. So that's when I started to realize, okay, I think I'm out of this. But it was quite a process. I never went back on any medication for that, but I did definitely suffer through just kind of pulling. Like, I knew what I needed to do, and it was to cut out those carbs and just get moving again. And that did finally work, but it was a process. And I'm glad that I went through that process, because I do know that I can't do that. And that helps me, because everybody needs something to motivate them. And that helps me remain motivated. I know what's going to happen. That's not who I want to be. I never liked being that person in the first place. I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Not an option.
Yeah. So, okay. Every single one of my clients knows your story. I have told your story to pretty much everybody. They are all very familiar with it. Just to kind of go over some of the basics, a lean mass hyperresponder. It's not everybody. It's a very small percentage of the population. I just talked to a cardiologist, Dr. Brett Scher, all about this as well. We mentioned you specifically. I'm telling you, everybody knows about you. I'm telling everybody about you. Okay, so you go on low carb and all of your blood markers get better. Things improve. Triglycerides drop. HDL cholesterol, what we call the good cholesterol, goes really high. Great. People feel way better. Mental disorders magically disappear. Anxiety goes away. Depression, all kinds of different stuff, including and up to bipolar disorder. All that stuff improves. But one thing can happen: your total cholesterol and your LDL cholesterol, what we call the bad cholesterol, goes up. And it doesn't just go up to beyond the borderline. It's not like a kind of concerning number to your doctor. The number can go super high. And the only other way that happens is with a genetic condition that works by a different mechanism and is called familial hypercholesterolemia.
It's a hard one.
It's a tough one, a lot of consonants. And that can be fatal for people. Yet we have this other cohort of people eating low carb, feeling amazing, everything's looking great, except for this one number. This one number just so happens to be what we call bad cholesterol that would make doctors freak out. So now we have all these other questions. We have a whole different dilemma of what to do about it. Some people can reintroduce a few more carbohydrates and the LDL cholesterol seems to go right back down to a comfortable place and people are fine with it. There's other people that when they reintroduce carbohydrates, all of the things they were dealing with before come back, like you. You have to make an extremely difficult and uncomfortable decision. Do you want to believe that LDL cholesterol does not cause heart attacks, or do you want to have bipolar symptoms? Like, choose one. You can't have both. I would not like to be in that position. That is really, really tough. And based on the research, based on what I've seen in the last few years, I am fairly confident and optimistic that we, in due time, will be able to definitively say that LDL cholesterol does not cause heart attacks. That's speculation at this point. That is not proven. We're heading in that direction. I like where it's going. For you, I've asked you this question before. If I'm wrong, if we're wrong, and LDL cholesterol causes heart attacks, and you die tomorrow of a heart attack, what do you do?
Well, I'll be dead, so I won't have to worry about it.
That's true.
No, but I so appreciate and recognize the fact that you understand, because I've talked to people about this and nobody really understands what you just said. I have to make a decision. I have to make a decision here. Do I worry about what's going on with my heart, or do I worry about what's going on with my brain? And we are very much in a state of unknowing. And even that was a conversation that Tro and I would have when we were going through this. It's like, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the outcomes of the studies are happening now, but we don't know what the outcomes are. What do you want to do? We did have the test for the familial hypercholesteremia.
Nailed
So that
it.
is a very slow,
Nice job.
which I did not have the genetic, the gene for it. So we knew it wasn't that. And the only assumption we could say, because it did at first, 5 years ago, it was going down. And then I lost all the weight and it shot up, and it shot up. It was crazy high. I had a greater than symbol next to the number that they counted. So
Wow.
yeah, so there was a whole bunch. So I have to make this decision. What am I going to do? And I, like you, I'm putting my eggs in this basket. I feel like, especially because, you know, these boats, these LDL boats that are floating around, your brain needs them too. So maybe I just need more of them. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But it's the decision that I've made, is that on the day-to-day basis, my CAC is 0, and we know the power of 0. So my CAC is 0, and I just keep getting it tested, and we just know where it is. And I just have to put my faith in that these tests will come out. And at one point, I will no longer be this anomaly, and I will have some studies to back who I am. So
Yeah.
that's where I am with that now. And I'm very hopeful, especially after, you know, like we said, talking to Dave Feldman in Denver, because what he's got coming out is, it's going to help me so much. But I do have a low carb doctor now. And in fact, he was in Denver too. So we talked about it, and you know, we know that this is where I am with this, and we're just waiting for the science to catch up to me. I mean, isn't that what we're doing for all of it, really? I mean, the science is out there, but the knowledge is not necessarily out there amongst the people who can make these decisions, the doctors and pharmaceutical company, all of it, healthcare. The science is out there, but it's going to take some time to catch up, and all of us are holding on for that to catch up, so that we can go to the doctor and say what we have, say what our symptoms are, tell them what we're doing, and them not tell us that we're nuts for doing that, and that our body runs on sugar, you know, or being labeled as a non-compliant patient because you say, no, I've done some research and I don't think I need a statin. And there's so many of us out there that have been considered non-compliant patients. So we're all waiting. I just happen to be one of some other people who are waiting for some things that are being studied now that aren't out yet. So, and I'm willing to wait, because I really, in my heart, I don't feel like I have an issue.
Yeah.
I feel like it was the right choice.
Good for you. It's a very courageous choice. I would make the same decision with where I sit with that information. I don't get it measured because I don't really care. I believe that LDL cholesterol is protective. We can't say that for sure. It's looking really good. We'll see how the data play out over time. But it's a really heavy decision, and it's really cool that you've made that decision. I really love and appreciate that, and it's a really good example for a lot of people out there who are concerned with cholesterol. The message about cholesterol and statins just seems to get pushed harder and harder and harder all the time. And so for you to recognize that and make that decision for yourself, I think is amazing. And it's, I think, really empowering for people to make their own decisions. I guess I just want to end this conversation by pointing out that on the NSNG page on Facebook, the wonderful page, and you're one of the admins. And I see recently Vinny Tortorich has popped up on I can't Mike Rowe's podcast.
Mike
maybe?
Rowe, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Which very popular outlet. He's going to get a lot of new followers. We've seen a ton of new people on that page, which I just joined, which I love, by the way. And you get this really interesting mix of people who have been experienced. They've been doing this a long time. They know exactly what you said earlier. No sugar, no grains means no sugar, no grains. That's just do that. That's it. Really simple. Yet you've got all these new people who are asking tons and tons of questions about keto products and all kinds of other stuff. And so I just want to ask, how are you able to help some of the newcomers who are just learning about this stuff? We want to help them. We want to support them. How are you able to help some of these people who are just getting started?
Well, when I became an admin, my voice changed in that space. And I really, I dropped this. We're kind of known for being a little snarky. So I dropped that for myself, and I really started to try to put myself in their shoes. I really do try to remember what it was like for me when I was first starting out. And thankfully, when I was first starting out, these products didn't exist, and I've seen them come on with time. So the people who are starting out now, they're really, really having a hard time because it's so mainstream to see these products. And then when I first became an admin, I started just reading labels. I have a little hashtag called Reading Labels with Robyn, and people would ask questions, and I would just tell them, look, it says these things on it, don't eat it, and this is why. And I just started to do that, and now it's really become, I really do try to comment on every single person, and I try to help with that very, very basic. It's no sugars, no grain. Do it for 30. We hope you'll try it for 90 days. Eat. A lot of people who get refined like we do, I'll only eat 2 meals a day, or I'll only eat 1 meal a day. These people aren't ready for that yet. If they're hungry, we want them to eat. So even if they're eating several meals a day, as long as it's not a sugar and not a grain, we want them to eat it for 30 to 90 days. And all of that refining stuff comes. Everyone gets there. Everyone wants to start fasting. Everyone wants to go carnivore. Everybody wants to do that stuff. But we want them to just very basically, no sugar, no grains. Let's get that down. Your weight's going to start falling off, or you're going to start, even if your weight doesn't start falling off, you're going to start feeling better. You might see inches falling off. Your eyes, I always look at everybody's eyes. Their eyes brighten up. Because there's so much inflammation in the face, and our eyes brighten up. Like, look at your eyes, it's working, just keep going. And you look for those non-scale victories for everyone, and we really try to pump each other up. And it's been real fun. It's been a real joy for me to, I kind of end up being part of people's stories. And I'm not saying I want to be in everybody's story, but I am saying that it's fulfilling for me, and I love that I can do that. I can help people, and the whole team is doing that, and the whole group does that. We are just very, very much for each other. And I know everybody has their own groups. We're a cool group. We stick with us, but anybody's welcome to join us in our group. If you can handle a little bit of snark, then you're good to go.
I Love it. Wow, what an amazing answer. This has been such a fun conversation. You're right too. Like going to KetoCon, a keto branded conference, and seeing the attention from the consumer, from people attending, go away from keto products and towards carnivore was astounding to me. And it's very hopeful. And I realize we all have to start somewhere though. Like we got to get in at some
Right.
point, and we'll correct as we go. And most people will end up heading towards carnivore. I truly believe that. I observe that just like you have, but they got to start somewhere. And that page is such a great and hopeful platform for a lot of people, and they're very lucky to have you on their page, and we're really lucky to be able to talk to you today. I did mean in the introduction when I consider you a very dear friend, so thank you so much for coming on our show today. Where do you want people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
Well, I am always on that Facebook page, so you can certainly find me there and ask me questions there. But I do try to stay active on Twitter as well, which you mentioned. It's at RMMLD03, but you can just type in my name. I'm sure it comes up. I'm Robyn Dobbins. That's Robyn with a Y, and then I rhyme. So that's pretty easy to remember. And I do have my own Facebook. I have a page on Facebook, which is Robyn R. Dobbins. That I've just started fairly recently. So come follow me on my page. I'm going to start making that a little more active as well. And I mean, I love to connect with people. Like, I mean, just like you said, going to these conferences and meeting people and seeing where they are and getting to share and talk. And I love to continue to gain that knowledge as well. And it's okay to try new things every once in a while too. So yeah, we're all kind of moving towards carnivore, but then you have somebody like Dr. Mindy Pelz who's like, some women might need some carbs. I just heard her speak not too long ago, and she was like, the hardest clients I have are the ones that are diehard into their carnivore way of eating. I was like, oh, that's me. So it's like, what you do, yeah, at all stages of this game, you have to open up and say what is going to work best. And it can be as simple as no sugars, no grains, or it could be as simple as I only eat meat. And then there's some things in between, but it will work. It will work for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
amazing. Well, Robyn, thank you so very much for your incredible journey. Thank you for sharing it with us today. And thank you so much for all the help you provide to the community. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
It was such an honor. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.